This is GabNet, the Great American Broadcast Network, now in its 8th year of talk like you've never heard it before.
Hey everybody, I'm Alex and this is the Ramble, and we go until midnight tonight from New York, the city so nice they named it twice. Ladies and gentlemen, he just put his hat on. Just put his hat on. Because you wanted to make me your pork pie hat, right?
My pork pie hat, because I know how much you like it.
Why is it called pork pie? I mean,
I have no idea.
If I make a chicken pie, right? And then I say to you, see that pie over there with the crust over it? That's
right.
A pork pie. You wouldn't know that it wasn't. So what makes a pork pie hat a pork pie? What is it about?
I think it's a short brim, when the brim is up all the way around.
Yeah. I love the short brim on a hat.
Right.
I don't like the big brim.
No.
Somebody bought me a hat, and I got the one with the shortest brim possible, but I couldn't get them short enough. You know,
right.
I just like them so that's snazzy. So anyway, Stephen Kravitz lives in Massachusetts, and he works at, he's a comedian who does his stand-up comedy at Lowe's. Have you been doing stuff lately? You been working?
No.
No?
I mean, I've just been working at Lowe's.
Really?
There's not much going on. There was a club here that opened up, and it closed before I even had a chance to go down there.
Really?
The Comedy Attic.
Huh.
Opened and closed in like a week.
Was it on the top floor of a building?
Yes.
Oh, okay, so it was a comedy attic.
Yes.
Because I've known some place to call a comedy attic you walk down to.
Right, it's in the basement.
It's in the basement. Yeah, so. But they closed? How long were they open?
Maybe a month.
And did you bother to ask why they suddenly weren't open any longer?
No, I just went to their website because I was going to go down there, and it said we're closed.
Wow. That's terrible.
Yeah.
That's terrible, you know? It would be really, oh God, that's horrible. Well, that was one close by, right?
Yeah, right. That was one that, I could drive to in like 5 minutes.
I wonder, are comedy clubs kind of an anachronism now?
Yes.
You know, I mean, it used to be you open up a comedy club and it was a license to mint money.
Pretty much, yeah.
You know, and in fact,
but you had to book A-level comics.
Yeah. But
you couldn't book riffraff. You couldn't book hacks.
Yeah, but you were an A-level comic in San Francisco, yes. And Bubbles was an A-level comic in San Francisco.
Right.
So I mean, but what I'm thinking is, what happened? I mean, was there too much of it? Could that be? And people just tired of going to a comedy club? Or did they become too expensive to go to? It used to be...
I think a little of both, and I think it just maybe ran its course.
Because I found that good, cheap it was good, cheap entertainment in the old days.
Right.
How much would you pay to get in? How much was a drink? So everybody was opening a comedy club.
Right. Everybody.
How many were there in the Bay Area? I'm trying to remember, but it was...
You can make a living and never leave home.
Right, and work every night of the week.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Because, I mean, there was, I know there was at least one, there was one in the East Bay. Maybe there were a couple, actually, but...
there was Walnut Creek, there was Concord, there was...
Where was Tommy T's? San Leandro.
San Leandro.
Yep.
And Tommy T's in Concord.
Yeah.
And the Punchline in Walnut Creek.
Yeah, and then the Punchline in San Francisco, and Cobb's in San Francisco, and
Right. The zoo,
the Holy City Zoo, and
the other cafe.
other cafe. We had at least 4, and then they opened up a improv, I think, in San Francisco
Yes, they did for a while.
For a while. So I mean, you
In
had
the Tenderloin.
yeah, you had 5 clubs right in San Francisco,
Right.
and they were packed all the time.
Right.
And people did it because it was cheap, and I think what happened is it became too expensive, and the comedy became too mediocre.
I think the comedy became too mediocre.
Yeah, because I know that in San Francisco you had a bunch of people fighting for space.
Right.
You had a bunch of people all yelling and screaming, "Look at me, how funny I am!"
Right. Right.
So I mean, it was amazing. It was just amazing. But so clubs don't exist that much anymore, and I'm wondering here in New York. God, I think there aren't that many either in New York either.
Is it still the Improv?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Really?
I know, and the comic strip. I'm wondering if they're still open.
And Caroline's?
Caroline's is still open. Caroline's is in Times Square, and it is like, it's a bridge and tunnel comedy club where people from New Jersey, they want to come in, they want to see comedy, they think of Caroline's.
Right.
And the major acts play Caroline's.
Sure.
And then you have the comic strip, which I can't tell you whether it's still open or not. I mean, I could look it up here.
And isn't there the Boston Comedy Club in New York?
No, I don't think so. There was also, what was that club? Oh God, what was it? I'm trying to remember now. There was another big club here. Well, let me see here. Let me just put in the comic strip. No, come on. Jeez almighty. I'm trying to... Okay. The comic strip. Something? I can't get this to come up right. Hold on a second. The comic strip. Hey folks, isn't this good television? The comic strip live. Is a New York City staple New York comedy club. I guess they're still open. Yeah.
Okay.
It's called Comic Strip Live. But I can't remember, anything else. Who's playing there right now? Let's see here. Okay, I'm going to give you these names of these people playing there. And you tell me if you ever heard of them. This is for Wednesday, the 3rd of August. That would be tonight.
Right.
August 3rd. Okay. Olga Namer.
Who?
Olga Namer.
No.
David Suarez.
No.
David Hazout.
No.
Danielle Nero.
No.
Now you're a comedian working in this business, right?
Right.
You still pay attention to the business.
Sure.
And you never heard of any of those people.
Who's there for the weekend?
Let's see here. Weekend Fridays. Ken Boyd. J.J. Ramirez. Chris Roach.
No.
You're going to love this one. Subha Agarwal. And finally, rounding out the bill, the famous Mike Britt.
Never heard of any of them.
And then you wonder why you're not working.
Right.
And on next Friday, it's Ken Boyd, J.J. Ramirez. Oh no, that was then Saturday. Okay, that would be your big night, right? Saturday, right. Patty Roseborough, Mike Britt again, Jason Salmon, Ken Boyd, and J.J. Ramirez. Is this amazing? Who ever heard of these people? And I'm looking at like the 10th and the 11th, and if I said these names, you wouldn't know who they were. You know, you would think that there would be at least one. I always hear about famous people playing at the, that's the comic strip. Okay. All right. That's the comic strip. Okay.
Who's at Caroline's?
There are Caroline's. Okay. I bet they have more. Let's see. Caroline's on Broadway. Okay. Let me see here. Let me go back here. Let me see here. Caroline's on Broadway. Home. Okay. Here we go. Okay. Here is, let me see here. Michael Blackson. He's a black comedian with a gap tooth.
Oh, is he?
Yeah. Let's see here. Funniest show on Broadway with Shalawa Sharp. How about the Breakout Artist Comedy Series with Jay Mandiam? Oh God, none of these people, never heard of any of them. And you would think at Caroline there would be more, you know. But
there would be at least one national headliner.
Yeah, nothing. Sam J, Gary Owen. Hear of any of these?
No.
All right. So what have we said here? There's nobody working we ever heard of. And why aren't you on one of those shows?
That's right.
Because if you were down here and you went in there and you auditioned, say at the Comedy Store, you probably beat the pants off of half these guys.
Yeah. But the thing is, they're probably politically correct. They're probably clean. They're probably like corporate comics.
Well, you've never been a particularly dirty comic, have you?
No, but my language was colorful.
Oh, I see. Well, I think colorful language is still acceptable.
Is it?
Yeah. I would imagine.
Yeah, I wasn't below the waist. I mean, I wasn't like a blue comic. I was just a streetwise comic.
Okay. But so I mean, I think there's no reason why you shouldn't be, you know, one of these people.
Well, you be my agent.
I'll be your agent, okay? Who knows?
Make some calls.
What the problem is? Yeah.
Find out.
I mean, it just amazes me what passes for comedy today.
Right.
Now, maybe I don't know of any of these people because they're up and coming, and if I had paid attention to comedy all along, then I would say, oh, I know who that guy is. Sure, he's very funny. You know, he's terrific.
Right.
I mean, I'm wondering if I would have said the same thing about you if I didn't know about San Francisco comedy.
Well,
you know. What's a Bubbles? What?
What's a Bubbles?
Yeah, what's a Bubbles? Who names himself Bubbles? Yeah. So,
what was it? What was the other name he worked under besides Bubbles?
I think that was the only name he ever worked under. Really?
No, it was
Did he have another name? I have to ask him.
No, he would do bits about oh man.
So what?
Bobby Bitter.
Oh, Bobby Bitter. Bobby Bitter. Oh yeah, no, that was a bit he would do.
Right.
And he would suddenly be Bobby Bitter.
Right.
And Bobby Bitter did nothing but put down jokes.
Right.
Right? Yeah. Yes, I forgot. Yeah, I forgot Bobby. I'm going to have to bring that up to him. I forgot Bobby Bitter. I'm going to have to see if I can get him for a couple of minutes on this program to resurrect Bobby Bitter. You know.
I'm sure you can.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't heard him mention it in years. You know?
Has he gone video yet, or is he still just audio?
Don't even ask. Okay? I have 2 old iPhones here. One of them is like not that old. And I told
Right.
him, if you will just get it turned on, I will send it to you. Well, I don't know. A lot of people have offered me their phones, you know, and I'm going. So now, what happens with him? This one's really going to get to you. He has this. Isn't that a nice view out my window? That's my real view. That's not photoshopped or anything.
Right.
Anyway, where was I? So I asked him. Oh yeah. So the phone company got a hold of him and said, "I'm sorry. After a certain date, your phone will work no longer because we've completely gone to 5G or whatever the new
Right.
thing is. So we'll send you a new phone, right? Free, on us." And what they're going to send him is a smartphone, like an iPhone, something like that.
Okay.
Maybe a Samsung, maybe one of those, but a smartphone. He goes down to his local phone shop where buys all his phones and has over the years. He went, "They want me to get rid of this and they want to give me a smartphone. Do you have any flip phones left that work now?" And they went in the back room, they crawled under a floor somewhere, and they find this flip phone, old-timey flip phone. And he says, "I'll take it." And he takes it. He gets it turned on. He won't go to a smartphone. He won't go to a phone that is capable of at least seeing the people who are calling you or doing Zoom like we're doing.
Right.
It's not in the cards. And at home, you think he's got high-speed internet? No, it's too fast for him.
Once you got dial-up?
Yes.
Dial-up doesn't exist. There's no way he could have dial-up.
No, he does have dial-up. He said there are something like, in the Bay Area, I think he said 60,000 people who still have dial-up. Of course, they're all in the projects.
Right.
Or there's somewhere where, he's got dial-up. Every time he gets on, and I say, "You get all my emails?" He goes, "Yeah." Every time I sign on, I get, that whole noise.
Right, I remember that.
I don't believe it. Just don't believe it. I think he's afraid it will ruin his reputation.
It'll ruin his image.
It'll ruin his image, yeah. Well, I'm too old to figure out how these things work, and if I get it, I'll fuck it up. Well, that's what life is learning how to use things, because
Right.
along the way you fuck up using them.
Right.
But we were talking last time about companies. What the worst thing about these companies is, like I was saying, I couldn't get a hold of anybody. There's nobody to get a hold of at Skype. I got one message to him, but it was just simply that I needed to have a new password. And I had to fill out all this stuff, and they say it will take us 24 hours to read it. They're very slow readers. And we'll get back to you. And it's just that everything is so hard now. Just so difficult to get things done.
Right.
So, I mean, in a way, Bubbles is right, except that he does live in a city. If he became the Unabomber, went up and found a shack up in the mountains somewhere, and completely extricated himself from society, that would be one thing. If you don't, get a smartphone.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure you've got a smartphone, right?
Yeah, I have an Android.
You have an Android, and that's a smart.
I'd like to have an iPhone.
Yeah, if you want one, I got a couple of them sitting around here. You can have.
Oh, you do? You want to send me one?
Yeah, I'll have to figure out how to send things these days. But yeah, I could send it to you, and you just turn it on.
Right.
You just get a hold of your phone company and say, "I'm now on this other phone. How do we
Right.
how do we go about it?
How do we do it?
But anyway, if I can find it, it's yours.
Okay.
Just send me your address by email. You know how to do email.
Okay.
You know how to do email, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But anyway, Bubs gets email. I write him just like I write you and say tomorrow, whatever. He writes back, yup. Because
Right.
that's probably all he can write back, because every time, remember the old phones, you had to hit the A button 3 times to get to the C?
Hey.
Yeah. See, he's got a, so he does yup. Well, that takes him probably 20 minutes going, and so he does go onto his computer, and he does do.
Yeah, why can't, like I do this on the computer, why can't he do this on the computer?
Because we couldn't send a picture back and forth like I've got with you with a dial-up, because the speed isn't fast enough.
Oh.
It's very. Do you remember dial-up? How slow it was?
Sure.
You'd go to a page and it would take at least 15 seconds to load.
Right. It would load.
Yeah. So imagine that. That's Bubbles' life. Very slow life for Bubbles. So, what can I say? But he's been our friend for years, and we love him dearly.
Yes, we do.
And if he weren't that way, he wouldn't. If he suddenly got an iPhone, he wouldn't be Bubbles anymore. Does that make sense?
No, he'd just be Bubbles in the 21st century.
Oh God, that's scary.
Right now, it's still like 1999 with him.
Yeah. But I gotta admit, he, comedy. He works.
Oh yeah.
Because he's got a lot of comics, well-known comics, guys like Carvey and Dave Attell, who love to use him as an opening act because he's the perfect opening act.
Right.
He won't spoil the room.
No.
He's not going to work dirty, so he's not going to, take away from your cachet.
Right.
And he does his act, and everybody laughs at him and enjoys it, and he's great, but he's not loud.
Right.
And then anybody who wants to can follow him. Not because he's bad, but because he's comfortable.
Right, he sets a good pace for the room.
Yeah, so he's the world's, I think, greatest opening act.
And that's all he wants to be.
Hey, he's working.
Right.
That's the point.
Right.
A lot of people say, well, don't you ever want to be the and sometimes he is the headliner.
Right.
But don't you like being an open? He said, no, I do very well being the opening act for a lot of these very famous comics, who the word's gotten around that he's a great opening act for them when they're in the Bay Area. And I think Dana Carvey wanted him to open up for him all over the country, but Bubs won't take a plane.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's his other great fear.
But wait a minute, he flies gliders.
He does, doesn't he?
So what's he talking about? He's afraid of airplanes.
I don't know.
Well, he's afraid of airplanes with an engine?
Maybe. He just said that to me. With a glider, it's different than getting on an airplane. An airplane, you put in a giant aluminum tube and thrust through the air.
Right.
With a glider, you've got some control over that. Like, he actually flies the gliders, right?
Right.
I'm going to have to ask him about that, too. God, there's so much I don't know about Bubbles.
More will be revealed to you.
Yeah, well, maybe there's a lot about Bubbles that Bubbles doesn't know about Bubbles. That could be, too.
That could be true.
Yeah. Jeez almighty. Wow. That's terrific. But anyway, it's just, these are our friends, folks. These are our friends in comedy.
Right.
You don't have any, do you have comedy friends up there in Massachusetts?
Not really.
Not really. So you're kind
of... Lenny Clark is probably the one I know the best.
Oh, Lenny Clark's the best.
Yeah.
There's nobody... quickly, and then we got to go. You know the story about him and Julia Child, don't you?
No.
One night he gets really drunk. One night he gets really drunk. Every night he got really drunk. And it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and he's in Harvard Square, standing under Julia Child's window, yelling at the top of his voice so the whole neighborhood can hear it. "Wake up, bitch, and make me breakfast." That's my classic Lenny Clark joke. Hey, we've run out of time again. My, how time flies when you're having a lot of fun.
Right.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Once again,
Thanks,
I have
Alex.
no end. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Stephen Kravitz, whose birthday is in March, by the way, and he'll be 67.
Yeah, by the way.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
This is GabNet, the Great American Broadcast Network, now in its 8th year of talk like you've never heard it before.
Yes. Okay, there he goes. There's Mr. Kravitz. He's on his way, and we thank him for having joined us. We have one person waiting for us. Well, we have two people waiting for us, so maybe we'll just admit them to the citizen panel page here. There we go. Is it coming up?
Wow.
Okay, here we go. All right. There they are. There's Alan and there's Jeff. Okay, and that's all we got, folks. So, good night.
That's it.
See you later.
It's the three Jews.
Yeah,
There you go.
three Jews walk into a podcast.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Okay, what's the punchline now?
That's
Uh,
You know, I
That's
looked
a
up, you were
problem.
talking with him about Larry Bubbles Brown, and I looked him up, and something had popped up that I never saw before, his net worth. According to some website, I wrote it down last night.
Right, don't tell me. Don't tell me. He's worth $500,000.
5 times that.
What?
Yeah, they claim about $5 million. I don't know where the.
No. I think you got I think you got the wrong Larry
Billy.
Bubbles Brown.
I don't know where they get their stats, but I was kind of in shock too.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Somebody like that could afford a higher standard of
Wait a
living.
minute. Larry Bubbles Brown. You got to be wrong.
Net worth.
Net worth. Okay, because there are other Larry Browns, you know.
Yeah, but nobody Larry Bubbles Brown.
Net worth. Okay, Larry Bubbles Brown. Net worth. Let's see here. It says, no, it doesn't. Oh, his net worth, estimated net worth, and it doesn't have anything listed here. Estimated.
I went to a couple of them. I could probably find it again.
Well, no, but it may not be the same Larry Bubbles Brown. You know.
How many other people use Bubbles as their middle name?
Well, I don't know, but, you know. Let me see here. Let me go back here. Let me see here. Larry Bubbles Brown. How old is that? How much is Larry Bubbles? No, how much is Larry David worth? We don't want that one. Let's see here. Larry David's net worth. No, I don't see any.
Okay, it's called, the website is called wikitrusted.com.
Yeah, so what? I'm looking, I put in here in Google net
It says
worth.
Larry Bubbles Brown biography, and talks about he's a comedian starting in San Francisco in the 80s, blah,
Yeah,
blah, blah. And you go down a little farther,
Yeah.
and it says his net worth, even farther, where'd it go?
Let me
Net
see
worth.
here. I have it here.
Towards the bottom, says between 1 million and 5 million.
Between 1 million and 5 million.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's what it says here. But that's a big
Yeah.
that's a big stretch
That's right.
between.
I don't know him as well as you do.
I think they don't know is what they don't know. Okay.
Right.
Let me see here. Look up Alex Bennett's net worth. See-
Millions.
Look at that. Now I want to hear how much I'm worth according to them.
Hold on.
What you got
Go
trouble?
on with the show.
Got trouble typing? What?
Go on with the show.
Go on with the show. Da, 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 da. Hey, John Larkin, how are you?
Hey, how you doing? Rooster Teeth Feathers
What about it?
What about
still
it?
open. Well, it's closed because of the coronavirus, but it's still down there.
Really?
In sunny. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been there for like 35 years.
You found out how much I'm worth?
I'm getting there. I found one that says, but it's your husband, so that's not the same Alex Bennett. It says 1.5 million.
Okay, I'll take that.
Yeah, I hear you. Who was Alex Bennett? That's a good question. I'll find it.
Well, wait a minute. I can probably look up Alex Bennett's net worth.
Well, that's what I put in here, and so there's all kinds of stuff.
Well, how about that site that you got for Larry Bubbles Brown? How about those people?
Hell, I don't know. I just
Well, they
Googled.
just put in
That's
my
all.
name. Just put in my name.
Oh God, I got to go back to that. Hold on.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm making you work too hard.
That's right.
Okay. It doesn't know who you are. Nobody really does anymore.
No, I used to be a big shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. What? He's having trouble finding it. Here, Alex Bennett's net worth. Oh,
Alex Bennett, age worth at 13 million.
What?
Composer. Yeah, what? 13
Composer.
million. Not the same Alex Bennett, obviously.
Yeah.
Well, look, just keep talking. I'll find the site again.
No, you won't. You won't find it.
Here it is. You were born in 1939, right?
That's right.
Okay, now I got the right Alex Bennett. He's a journalist, Sagittarius.
Wait a minute, I'm a journalist. I'm a journalist.
That's what it claims.
No. I'm
It's on buzzlearn.com.
No.
Alex is listed as a successful journalist born in the year 1939. He is ranked in the richest person in this list.
Boy, they got the wrong Alex Bennett. I got to tell you right now.
Well, they got the age right, and they got your birth date right, too. I know what it is. I don't know if you want it out on the air.
December 18th, 1939.
Right, that's what it
Yeah.
says.
Yeah.
Rabana Sagittarius.
Or put in Bennett Schwartzman.
It's probably just an AI bot that goes and scrapes the internet for.
Yeah, it says you're worth between $1 million and $4 million.
No, oh, really? Oh. I don't
Annual salary under review.
Under review?
Whatever the hell that means, yeah.
Try Social Security. You know? No, boy, I love the fact.
I'm actually good at finding things on the internet. It's my days as an investigator. Of course, we didn't have much.
I've thought
The internet
about,
wasn't big then.
I thought about, every now and then I think about moving back to California, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Doesn't say that here.
no, I know it doesn't say that there. So a friend of mine called me today, and she's from San Francisco, and she was trying to get a hold of me, and she couldn't figure out how to get a hold of me. She figured out how to get a hold of me, and she got a hold of me too late to be able to see me while she was out here. But anyway, that's not the point. She lives in Felton, California. You know where Felton is?
Sure.
Yeah, it's
It's
on
in
the way
the mountains
by Santa Cruz.
by Santa
Yeah.
Cruz.
Yeah,
Okay.
I had a friend, Karen Babbitt, whose father was Art Babbitt, the cartoonist for Disney. And I believe I visited her once, and that she lived in Felton. So I've been to Felton. But anyway, my friend lives up in the mountains in Felton, above Felton or whatever, out in the redwoods. And she showed me a picture that one of her neighbors took, a video with they have cameras all over the place. And this person took a picture, with their security camera that was on, and they cut the video out of a mountain lion walking down their street. And I finally decided, well, I guess California is not for me. Not when a mountain lion has a right of way over me. Who do we have here? Do I recognize the beard? I don't think I recognize you with the beard, or should I? Yeah, but it's Lenny.
Lenny is who he's talking to.
Yeah.
You might, Alex. It was 20 something years ago at Sirius when I walked into your studio, and you said they just hired my son Howard Stern. I was doing the classic rock stuff at Sirius.
Oh.
You were killing it at the time, by the way, if I remember.
Well, I like
you were so wonderful on Sirius.
Yeah, well, I guess I was, as long as Mel was there, I had a job, because Mel appreciated talent. And
it was Alex Unplugged.
Yeah.
Is how I looked at it.
Yeah.
It was a great time.
So what's the last name?
Block, Bloch.
Oh, of course. Of course, Lenny. I remember
yes.
you.
It's so good to see you, my friend.
Yes. And you're living where now?
I'm living in Woodstock, New York.
Yeah.
About two hours up the river.
Yeah.
And doing radio here for the local listener-driven radio. It's one of the last bastions of good radio in the country, independently owned by one guy.
Oh, wow.
And we get to play around a lot. We get to massage the music and kind of like the old days. And there's still a devout 50+ listenership.
Does the station make money?
Station's making some money.
Wow.
We're we just moved to a beautiful old Methodist church on Route 28 in West Hurley, New York. And, Woodstock is going through its own metamorphosis, like a lot of towns of it, a lot of towns like it, a lot of tourist towns. And there's a lot of money coming here, and maybe too much. Mm-hmm. There's no place to rent. It's all B&B and all. It's a real example of the have and have-nots, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like a lot of tourist towns. And I'm lucky to have found a nice place and some great people to work for. And I'm doing radio. I do a remote radio show out in Arizona from my bedroom.
Yeah.
And I work at one of your old buddies. Didn't you know Levon Helm back in the day?
No, I didn't. No.
Levon, the drummer for the band.
I know Levon Helm, and I of him, but I knew him.
He's got an old studio. He passed away in 2012, but his studio is around the corner from my house, and I work there, and they do shows there, and I'm one of the dozen or so old timers that park cars, and then do old man security at the barn for shows.
Oh,
so
jeez, almighty! Yeah,
it's don't want to stop working. Like I love seeing you continuing to work. This is a great thing.
No, what this is the end of a career right here. You're watching it.
So be it.
So be it. I do it to keep my chops up. Is what I do. So, I've been doing this for I've been doing this for 8 years now. 9 years. How many years have we been doing? 8 years?
8 years.
8 years. Yeah. Yeah, when they dumped me from Sirius XM, this is what I came and did. They dumped me I was gone on a Friday, and on a Monday I was doing this. So,
That's what we call a segue. That's called a nice segue.
That's what's called you don't really want to give up the ghost.
Hey, I do work. My boss in Arizona, I believe you either work with him or close by him in San Francisco, Dennis Constantine. Do you know that name?
No.
Dennis was at KFOG for a while, and was at Live 105. You were at Live 105.
I was at Live 105, yeah.
You were
yeah.
I may be confusing my call letters, but he knows of you and remembers you.
Well, people who worked in San Francisco know of me.
Right.
I mean, I was not a small act in that town.
Right.
Well, gee, it's so good to see you, Lenny, because I remember you with great fondness.
Thank you. Mutual. That's a mutual admiration society, indeed.
Yeah. So, how long did you last at Sirius XM?
5 years.
5 years.
I was there from 2000 to 2005, and I too got asked to leave by someone who didn't like my act.
Yeah, 2004 I was gone, I think, there.
Right.
No, wait a minute.
I was there when
2000.
when Howard walked in. I was there when Howard walked into the building, as the Messiah to save satellite radio.
I'm saying 2014, excuse me.
You were there. You were there until 14. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was long gone. I was asked to leave in 05, again by someone who didn't care for my act, and rather than say, "Hey, we don't care for your act," they just trumped up some charges, and I was out the door.
Yeah, you were out the door. Well,
yeah,
it's good to see that you're still doing music. I know it was something you really loved.
45 years of music radio.
Yeah.
I landed at I was at CBS FM in the city for 8 years.
Right.
I got to do overnights. I worked with Cousin Brucey and Ron Lundy and Dan Ingram, I think, had moved on. But it was the last gasp of CBS FM before they turned to Jack.
Yeah.
And they went back to CBS FM. This is radio talk. I apologize to who don't have the other insight that Alex and I have in regards to radio.
Because I had two, actually 3 different careers. My first big career in New York was back in, I came here in 1969, right? And wound up staying here till 70, and then I went out to California and worked San Francisco for 11 years and had another major success out there. And then I came back to Sirius XM. So there was a third. They're like different people that know me from different places. They go, "I used to listen to you," and I go, "Where?" Oh, but those were the days also when you could establish yourself in many different markets as a different person. I mean, when I went to California, I reinvented myself. I did, but today everything's syndicated, so you only have one act, and that's the only one you can be remembered for.
Right.
So,
right.
Whatever. So these guys, a lot of these guys here remember me from San Francisco.
Absolutely.
Kevin remembers me, and
yep.
In fact, most of
I
them
remember
were away.
that. I remember the billboards and the signs on the side of the buses.
I used to go to the studio on Ninth Street.
McGovern are like, trying to fake fight. Wasn't it Terry McGovern?
Yeah, that was on the cover of Image magazine. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw you all over the place and heard you on the radio.
But
too.
that's when I used to be a big shot.
There you go.
There's an old movie called The Roaring Twenties with Jimmy Cagney and Humphrey Bogart, and Humphrey Bogart shoots Jimmy Cagney. He goes out stumbling through the street, falls on the steps of what is, I think, supposed to be St. Patrick's Cathedral, and is dead in the arms of his girlfriend. And then a cop comes up, I think played by Ward Bond, who says, "Who was he?" And she says whatever his name was in the picture. I can't remember the name he used. And then she says, he says, what did he do? And she looked back at the cop and said, "He used to be a big shot." And that always resounded with me. Every time I got fired from a radio station, I went, "He used to be a big shot."
My mother would always say that to me.
Really?
Except differently, she would say, "You're acting like a big shot."
You're acting like a big shot. Yeah.
Hey, as long as we're dropping names, I don't mind dropping a few. My mom said something similar too. She would say to me, "You're going to meet some of the people that are on their way up now. You're going to meet them on the way down when you're going up."
Yeah.
And that was when I interned, and I told you this, Alex, many years ago. I interned for Wolfman Jack in New York City.
Jesus Christ.
At the age of 17, I was there in 73, 74. And my mom would say that about him all the time. "Don't worry, you're going to be on the way up when he's on the way down." And it kind of did happen like that. I think he passed in 95. And
I've heard some bad things about him.
I have nothing but good things to tell you.
Good. Because I never
I really do.
Never.
I mean, he's a heavy pothead, which turned me into a heavy pothead. But I never saw him do coke, and I went to a lot of parties with him.
Mm-hmm.
I never saw him even move on another woman. I know how much he was in love with his wife, Lou. So those are two constitutional things that,
Okay.
that are in my heart
That's nice
about
to
him.
hear.
I saw good. I saw mainly good in him.
Yeah.
For the
Okay.
most part.
Because I never met the guy. Never met him once. So I can't even say one way or the other.
The first
I
night,
remember listening to him up to the time. I remember listening to him up to the time of his death. Were those repeated syndicated shows, or did he just work up until the end?
they're still running them, and I'm in touch with his son. His son is Todd Smith. His son just emailed me the other day because we were going to hook up. I used to babysit his kids. So Todd was 12 years old, and I'd take him to Walgreens. He'd steal stuff. Then he gets caught, and he says, "Hey, I'm Wolfman Jack's son." The guy says, "I don't care who the hell you are." But no, those shows are still, I believe, in syndication. They
Really?
do the same thing with Dick Clark. They repurpose. They take his voice and they drop it in over songs, and they repurpose and make new shows out of them.
You know what
And
they
a lot
can,
of
you know what they can do now? They can take my voice, your voice, Wolfman Jack's voice. They can synthesize it, and then they can have him do a whole new radio programs, and it's his voice.
Yeah.
Wow.
They have. I noticed. I was looking on at a radio site, okay, the other day, and they have this woman who's an announcer and will be an announcer on your radio station virtually. You just buy her voice, and then you can write the script, and then it will just use her voice, but she won't be reading it or anything. It's just synthesizing her voice.
Artificial intelligence.
So
There's
think
a TikTok voice that all the kids use. It sounds like sort of like a Japanese woman, but you can put in any words and it sounds like a regular person talking.
Yeah, but this is literally that you can take almost any person now, and take them. And I mean, for instance, let's say they want to do a Humphrey Bogart digital movie, and they do a digital animation of him, and then they can take his voice and literally make it sound like Bogart, because they're taking bits and pieces of the voice and stitching them together in an amazingly fast time digitally.
Audio hologram.
Is that what it's
That's
called?
incredible.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I think they did
They
that.
can do it with video. Why can't they do it with audio?
Yep. Absolutely.
I want to say they did that with Jerry Garcia at one of the old Dead shows.
That's right.
They had him up on stage playing in a hologram form or in a big video form,
Yeah.
and the band's jamming along with them.
That was a few years ago.
That's pretty weird.
Well, have you ever seen that? Have you ever seen that fake video of Barack Obama giving a speech?
Yes.
It's hard to tell that that's fake. That's scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's real. It's real to a lot of people.
they have a name. They have a name for that. It's called deep fake.
Yeah. Deep fake.
Yeah, and they could take a person, and then they could take somebody's face, like Sylvester Stallone, and do a deep fake on the face of this person. It's very
Didn't they do it on 60 Minutes or something?
Yeah.
PBS or something like that. They did a whole segment on that,
And they took the
guy and literally cloned him.
Well, what they did is they took him. It was who's the black reporter.
The
on
black
the
guy, I
show?
can't remember his name, but they did it on him.
And but what they did, they didn't just do him. They did him 30 years ago.
Yes, yes. They went back 30 years, put a mustache on him,
And
the
he
whole
just
bit.
sat there talking and everything like that, and they just put his old face on him.
Yeah.
I could sure use that about now.
There's a guy, a pretty famous Instagram guy who has his whole channel is deep fakes of Tom Cruise. And
Yes.
you can't tell unless someone tells you. You would never.
The
know.
only
I see that guy too.
The only thing that's a dead giveaway is the Tom Cruise he's doing is younger than Tom Cruise is today.
Yeah, and his body also looks like when he shows his whole body.
I've seen the guy who does him, and then they just put the face on him of Tom Cruise. So,
But he's just an amateur, like at home on his Mac or something.
People are doing amazing things today.
Jumps up on the couch just like he did with Oprah.
Yeah. Yep. What do you think about music today, Lenny?
Boy, that is a loaded question.
No, it's not a loaded question.
I think, and I said this 25 years ago at Sirius too, I think there's still a lot of great music being made. You just have to seek it out. There's pretty much no more top 40. There's no more top 40 radio that blends different styles together. I mean, you could look at what the kids are listening to today and sound like our parents or like our grandparents. Oh, that's a lot of crap. Everything was great back in my time. And I think it's a fact that a lot of the best music was made in the 70s and 80s, but that's me being, true to my own age. So I think there's still a lot of great music being made. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of garbage being made too. The musicians don't have the avenues that they once had. Nobody's making money selling their music. It's all, everything's digital. Everything's either being downloaded for free or Spotify and the big companies are giving, very small amounts of money to the artists with the music.
But that's true with just about everything. I mean, people say to me, don't you want to get back into radio? And I go, does it exist anymore? Maybe it exists for Lenny in Woodstock, but basically radio doesn't exist anymore. The people who are doing it, these big outfits that are doing it, are going digitally. They're doing,
right.
the streaming, things like that. That's the only way these outfits are surviving.
Well, when you see that some of the radio companies are making money, they made $8 million in their last quarter. That's because they cut half of their staff. They continue to cut and cut the staff. My station actually came up with a unique approach a couple of years ago. It's somewhat of a hybrid between a public radio station and a commercial radio station, where we only do local advertisers, small local advertisers, and it's listener supported. For $100 a year, you support the radio station. You help independent radio survive in the Hudson Valley, and you get plenty of perks for that. You get lots of free music. We, give you first shot at concert tickets. So it's a hybrid between, and we tell folks that we're only playing local commercials. We dropped a $30,000 McDonald's campaign because we wanted to stay with mainly local advertisers.
Wow, that's great.
So
that's great.
We really was one of the first in the country to do it.
I would do that with Gabnet, but I'd have to say for $100 I'll blow you.
Well, so be it.
It's too much travel involved there.
Are you, Lenny? Are you anywhere near the Hotel Mountain Brook?
That does not ring a bell. No.
The hotel in your neighborhood that a friend of mine used to work at, Hotel Mountain Brook.
Nope, don't know that. I know the Hotel Dillon. Bob.
This is I had to look this up because they.
Well, you were saying Levon Helm's old studio wasn't Big Pink, was it?
That was not Big Pink. That's in Saugerties. This is a studio that he built in the middle of his depressed days when he wasn't making any money, when he was going bankrupt.
Yeah.
So he built the studio that unfortunately burned to the ground.
Oh.
They rebuilt it, and it now is a performance space, and they have bands come in and do recording sessions for a couple of days. But it's got it's funny. We had Taj Mahal play there last week. I haven't seen Taj Mahal in 50 years. 80 years old. He was absolutely incredible. Magnificent charisma. Place was packed. I've never seen more people walk out of that place with a big smile on their face. Then we get, a couple of shows that get 100, 150 people. And then all these shows sell out, and I don't know who the bands are. I have to look them up on YouTube to find out who they are. And that's where I'm getting back to, is there any good music today? There's plenty of it out there. It just doesn't get the exposure that it used to get.
Yeah.
In the old days, the example I give is there's no more critical mass. In the old days, in the 70s and 80s, a new Stones album came out. Hey, tonight at 9 o'clock, WNEW is going to play the whole Stones record. Everyone was listening to NEW at 9 o'clock to hear the Stones album.
Right.
Now you've got everyone splintered everywhere. They're on Facebook, they're on a podcast, they're on Gabnet, they're on their sister's, microphone. There's just no critical mass anymore.
I remember
radio has lost that critical mass.
I remember in 1999, there was only one podcast in America, and I was doing it.
Right on.
I was doing it. I could
incredible.
explain it to you, but if I explained it to you, you'd say, yes, of course, that was a podcast.
I can riff off that. Yeah, for the 50th anniversary of Woodstock, I started something called Podstock from Woodstock,
Mm-hmm.
and I got Wavy Gravy,
Yeah.
who was fantastic.
Yeah.
I got John Sebastian, who I just saw in the supermarket the other day,
Mm-hmm.
who was a performer at Woodstock, great guy. I got Jorma Kaukonen, who I interviewed in the green room at Levon's. And then after 3 episodes and a lot of work, I said, you know what? I'll put this up there with another, 5 million other podcasts. And if I get 5 people listening to it, I'll be happy. It was too much work. No revenue, no real noticeable source of revenue. And now everyone, there's got to be 5 million podcasts.
My question is, how do you do a podcast and get anybody to listen to you? Unless you're doing some kind of mystery or something like that.
Right. Well, they some of them do get a level of traction, but again, what is that level that's going to make it a success and make you a couple of bucks off?
Well, when I did it, I was the only one, and by the time by last year, what did I read? Something like 20 million podcasts, some ridiculous amount,
Alex, I want to get back to that. Is there any good music around today? I was talking about this on the air the other day. We're playing a new song by a guy named Steven Sanchez.
Mm-hmm.
It's a real throwback sounding song. Beautiful song. Guy has an incredible voice. I look him up. Just signed to a record label. He started out on TikTok.
Wow.
He got a huge following on TikTok.
That's the way you do it.
He's 19 years. And I said, how do you make it in the music business these days? 19 years old. On TikTok, huge following now, and I think it's a semi-major label deal. But the game has changed for everyone. Musicians, they're making their money by touring and selling merchandise. You see them hawking their merchandise at all these shows now. Visit our merch table, get a T-shirt. Our new CD is available.
Yeah.
It's
You have to know how to play that. I have not yet really learned how to play that game. So I just do this.
Either. Yeah.
So let me just check with the other people here. So how are you doing, John, out in San Francisco?
I'm okay. I broke up I hurt my leg because I broke up in a dog fight. I was just walking down the street and this pit bull ran after and it was attacking this other dog that wasn't my dog. I was just walking next to it. And this pit bull was going to kill the dog. So there was like 4 of us trying to break it up, and I was kicking the dog, kicking it. And then some guy from a construction site shows up with a big 4x4, and he goes whack right on the pit bull's head, and pretty much broke its back. But the other dog had a big gash in its side, and it was going to be killed. It was sad. And then the next morning I woke up, and I'm fucked up. I can barely walk because I'm too old kicking dogs.
Boy, that's something. I've heard about breaking up bar fights, but not dog fights.
Yeah. This pit bull had a head like that.
Well, pit bulls have literally vice-like jaws. I mean,
I know.
They're just
the best way to stop a pit bull is with a gun.
Yeah. They're very hard to stop. They're very hard to stop.
Well, this guy with the 4x4 definitely, I think it broke its neck because it couldn't walk after that, and it was pretty sad.
Poor thing.
A friend of mine, his pit bull grabbed his friend's mother's leg with his jaw, and wouldn't let go. And they called the police, and the police came and shot the dog.
Yeah. It was you know, it's not the dog's fault. It's the people that raise the dog.
Raise them.
You know?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Because I've heard that pit bulls can also be the sweetest dogs around.
Yeah. They're
Yeah.
great dogs.
Yeah.
They're great.
Well, some of them
Anyway.
are bred poorly. Some of them are bred. They breed them with the mean ones on purpose for fighting dogs.
That's
Yeah.
fighting
And then if you end up with one of those, you really got to know what you're doing because they can snap.
Is that the excuse for why Trump turned out the way he did?
Yeah, bad breeding.
Boy, have you been
Yeah.
reading about today? Merrick Garland finally had to get up and say, "Hey, look, stop
Yeah.
it already. You guys are getting ridiculous."
Hey, the police don't turn over information until it's time. But all the Republicans are out there saying, we demand to know why you raided the house, and we demand.
Okay, well, you know who they can get the information from? Donald Trump. Absolutely.
Right.
Because
Absolutely.
Donald Trump has the right. It got all the information, what it said in the warrant, what was taken from the house, a whole list and all of that.
Yes.
All he has to do is tell his Republican cohorts, here's the warrant, here's the information, I've got it. He can let it out if he wants to.
He could actually have it published if he wanted.
And they're sitting around yelling, "Oh, we want this information." Well, just ask Donald.
Well, Garland called their bluff. He's going to release it.
Well, he can't release it unless Trump says it's okay to release it.
And they're going to fight
Right.
that.
And they're going to fight that. And I don't know what the Republicans are going to say now about, we want to see this information.
Yeah,
Well, he
that's
has the
gonna
right not to release it if he doesn't want to.
I think Trump's going to claim they stole his solid gold toilet too.
yeah.
I already heard they're saying the FBI planted stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
So,
Of
and,
Yeah,
course.
Lindsey Graham
a lot
said that.
of people believe that.
No,
With Trump,
that's,
you don't have to plant anything.
that's the reason that Merrick Garland stood up for the FBI today, because those allegations, they probably planted stuff. What?
Yeah, right. And they're also saying it's nuclear classified documents. I mean, shit.
Very.
If he was stealing that shit, that's like what the Rosenbergs got executed for.
Well,
However, David Brooks had a great piece in the Times today titled, "Did the FBI just hand Donald the presidency again?" Because it's almost like it's martyrdom. They're gonna turn him into a martyr, and
Yeah.
I'm not thrilled. I'm not thrilled.
well, we have to see how it
Scary.
His people vote. His people vote. They get out and they vote.
Yeah, they do vote, but then again, so do we.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
Pray
That's
we're
true.
right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if he gets reelected, that's the end of democracy in America.
Yeah.
That's the end of America as we know it. But then again, I don't know about you. I don't know how old you are now, Lenny, but
66.
66. Well, at my age, 82, I keep saying, this is not the country I signed up for. This is not the country I was promised when I was taught at school what America was all about. So, I mean, it's not the same. It's just not the same.
They Rip Van Winkle. Do you know where that is, Lenny? It's in
I know
Woodstock.
There's a
Rip Van Winkle.
there's a
The north
brewery.
end of Woodstock. That's where that hotel's at.
Well,
That's
there's
it.
Why do you keep bringing up this hotel nobody heard of?
There's a brewery called the Rip Van Winkle. That I know.
Well, up
Yeah.
there, Rip Van Winkle, the old tale about Rip Van Winkle, and even the Catskills, and fell asleep, or what? I can't remember the story now.
It's a campground in Saugerties, which is the next town over. So if that's
Okay.
where they're staying. Yeah, they're cabins.
Yeah.
It's a quaint old 160-acre campground in the Catskills in Hudson Valley. Rip Van Winkle
Hey,
Camp.
Well, the funny part about Woodstock, and it becoming very famous, it became famous for the Woodstock Festival, which wasn't held in Woodstock.
No, it wasn't.
It was supposed to be held in Woodstock, but Woodstock wouldn't let them, so they moved it to Bethel,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
and that's where it was held.
Well, they first moved it to Wallkill because the townspeople here did not want to have it. Right. So Michael Lang got a place in Wallkill, which is a little bit closer.
Yeah.
And they built the stage, and then with 2 weeks to go, the town of Wallkill said, "We don't want 50,000 hippies here." So Michael gets a helicopter. He's another guy I used to see at the local grocery store. Big smile, big Jufro, the same. He looked the same as he did 50 years ago.
Jufro, I love that term.
Yeah.
And he fly. I can say that because I don't have one. And he flies over, Yasgur's farm and says, "Oh, look at that. That's perfect." And he gives Max 10 grand, and Max says, "Sure, you can do it here." And they had to, with the 2 weeks to go, they had to build another stage and build all the fences. 2 days to go, and the workers say to Michael,
"You're freezing on us." Oh, boy.
Freezing.
Well,
and Michael says, "Without a stage, we don't have a show."
Without a stage, you don't have a show. Yeah, I was at Woodstock. I literally was backstage at Woodstock.
Wow.
And I left early. Because I
ran out of dope.
No, I had a radio show. I had a radio show on Saturday night that I had to do, and I couldn't get the. Here's a great story. I knew Michael Lang, and I said to Michael when he did my radio show and was talking about this festival he was going to hold in Woodstock, "Hey, if I could would you allow me to put a telephone line in there so I could do my live show on Saturday night from the Woodstock Festival?" And he said, "Sure, if you want to, we'll work it out with you to get a line up there." Because those days you used to have to run a phone line in. There was, today you just get on the phone, so I go to my bosses and I said, "I have the ability to put a line into the Woodstock Festival and do a show from up there. Can we do it?" And it wasn't that expensive to do. I mean, it wasn't cheap, but it wasn't expensive either. And they said, what's the Woodstock Festival going to be? If they had had a phone line in there, do you know how much money they could have made off of that? Because that whole thing could have been turned into covering the concert, the whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
And instead, I had to leave early, and I went back with Paul Krasner because he had a date. And we left, I think, Friday night we left. But we were there.
Saturdays when the best dope came out. You missed it all.
Well, no, that's when the mud started happening. I'm sorry. I'm glad I didn't stick around. Okay, Yeah. But I just remember that the stupidest decision any radio station I ever worked for made. Yes, John.
Did you see the documentary on Netflix about Woodstock '99?
Oh.
What a fucking mess that was.
And I'll tell you, that's probably had a lot to do with why the 50th one that Michael tried to do 3 years ago did not happen. And I was sort of involved with that. I was going to do a podcast with him. If you see the interview, if you don't want to watch the whole thing, I urge you to go to YouTube, put in Michael Lang, Woodstock 99. You'll see an interview that he did in, I think, November of 19. It was 3 months before he died. And the Jufro is pretty much gone. And he pretty much says, yeah, you get a couple of assholes out there. And that's what happened at Woodstock 99.
Well,
it wasn't a couple of assholes. It was about 100,000 assholes.
It was probably more than a couple.
The problem is you just can't go back. Woodstock. The reason Woodstock was so memorable is it was a complete fuck up, and nothing that could go right went right. Okay, everything went wrong. It was incredible, and because of that, it became memorable.
Well, there was a sense of peace and calm throughout most of the original festival. By the way, this coming weekend is the 53rd anniversary. It was the 12th, 13th, 14th.
So didn't they out here in Altamont, out by
forget that.
Tracy, try and reduplicate it or something like that?
Yeah, that was the Rolling Stones.
Did you see the movie? Didn't you see the movie?
Yeah, I did a long time ago. But their mistake was they hired the Hells Angels for security.
Yeah.
For security. And do you know who Michael Lang and the Woodstock people hired for security?
Who?
They hired Wavy Gravy and the Hog Farmers.
Yeah.
Really? Wow.
As Wavy says, they became the Peace Patrol. The
Let me
Peace
tell
Police.
you the great Wavy Gravy story. Hugh Romney was his real name. I was doing a what do you call it? A telethon in San Francisco, and they had Hugh Romney there, and he was in his Wavy Gravy best, with the clown outfit on and everything. And I'm reading the teleprompter, and the teleprompter is talking about how this is a different kind of telethon. We've upgraded telethons. We're modernizing telethons. And then I point to Wavy Gravy and I read the the teleprompter, and it says, and this is the new face of telethons. And here's Wavy dressed in his clown outfit. And I go,
Big red nose.
And then I looked and I went, well, not exactly that face.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is he still alive?
Yeah.
80.
Is he really?
83.
Yeah.
And still very much involved in something called the Seva Foundation, which
That's right, yeah.
provides sight for 100,000 blind people worldwide.
Yeah.
He's still very much involved.
Wavy was one of the singly sweetest people I ever knew.
I met him out here at the Santa Cruz Blues Festival a few times.
Yeah. And he had the hog farm.
Yeah.
And they got me high on more than one occasion,
Just get around him and get high.
Well, no, what happened was there was a thing that was held up in Vermont, and it was called the underground press or whatever conference. What was it called? Anyway, it was a conference for all the underground press, and we all met at this school up in Vermont. I'm trying to remember the name of it now. It's a very famous school that is a kind of an advanced school where people get degrees in walking through the woods and things like that. And they were in the morning. They had 2 vats of orange juice. One said regular on it, and one said electric. And if you took the electric, you were on acid for the rest of the day. And if you took regular, you had a nice glow from orange juice, But they were always at those things passing out, let's say,
Electric.
Yeah.
Electric.
And they were a wonderful group of people.
The trouble with acid and orange juice is you got to know how many drinks to take. What's the dose? Do you have 1 cup? Do you have 2 cups?
You can't overdose you couldn't overdose on acid because there was no lethal dose of acid.
Yeah.
Your body would only absorb so much. And
but the trip can end up not being so much fun.
Oh no! I mean,
People also know what they were doing. They would just take one nice drink of it and walk away.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Then go to the other one for the rest of the day.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
We have another wonderful local here in Woodstock. She's actually a dentist. Her name is, I know her last name, Rona Owsley. She was married.
She was married.
Wasn't married to Stanley. They had a child together, and I guess they're common law because they were together for 20 years. But Rona,
don't tell me he's still alive.
No, he died he was in
Augustus Stanley Owsley was the guy who literally made LSD, or he didn't invent it, but he made it in batches.
Yeah, wasn't he connected to the CIA too, or something?
No.
I thought he was.
He also did sound for the Dead early on. He was like their sound guy, known as Bear.
Bear, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, that was Owsley?
yeah, he would go out and he would do LSD for the Grateful Dead. Did it for Kesey's what do you call it? Kesey's
The electric Kool-Aid acid test
electric
thing.
Kool-Aid
Yeah.
acid test. Yeah,
Merry Pranksters or something?
yeah.
Very
So
frank. Yeah.
But it
I
was
have
Further.
I have a funny story. In my senior prom at my high school, my best friend was the drug king, and he spiked the punch bowl without most people knowing with LSD.
that's wrong to do.
I
and,
agree.
and the teachers were high on it and everything. And so the newspaper article, which I have somewhere around here, says, they interview people at the senior proms and take pictures. 3 girls were freaking out. They swore they were being chased by giant Easter eggs. That was good acid.
Well, when I was at the Progressive Media Conference, when they were passing out the acid, I took some of their acid, and that night I was still high, and I'm walking through the woods, and all of a sudden I see these lights swirling around my legs and around my body, and I went, wow, these guys are doing the coolest light show I've ever seen in my life. Well, I'm a kid from the city, and I just had never seen a lightning bug before. But these were swarms of lightning bugs that I was seeing while I was high on acid, and there was nobody there to tell me, no, those are really lightning bugs,
I had a friend of mine that got high on acid. He was sitting in a room with one plant hanging on the wall, and he said, come in here quick. There's a wandering Jew after me. And I'm like, what? And I came in there, and the plant was a wandering Jew, but it was growing exponentially in his head. And I'm like,
Ray?
How many people here have done acid?
Are we admitting?
Yeah.
Yeah. Three, 4. Okay. I've never done it, so I just.
oh, well, I'll get you some right away, Ray. You'll be really good on it.
I had some. I threw it out.
Well,
I would try mushrooms before acid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to try shrooms. Yeah.
There he is.
You make mushroom tea.
There's Wavy.
Oh, there's the.
Oh, wavy gravy.
Yeah.
That was 2013.
Yeah.
Hey, here's a fun fact about LSD that I just learned. I'm new to this program they call AA, and I'm actually really enjoying it. And there's a documentary on Bill W. that is also highly recommended. He was really quite an interesting guy, and very much like Jerry Garcia, because he started this whole program and then became the center of attention, and then said, no, I don't want to be the center of attention. However, he tried acid later in his career to try and find an answer. And he was doing acid for like 5 years when it was still legal. So that was probably early 60s. But you don't hear that about, the king of no drinking, that he actually experimented with LSD for a good.
Well, I can see where that would be consistent with his beliefs, however, because some people thought that might be an answer to alcoholism.
Yeah, no, it was definitely studied. Absolutely.
The one thing about LSD that was amazing is that it was a shortcut to psychiatry. In other words, you could have a good session with a good psychiatrist on LSD and perhaps cut through most of the problems that would take you years and years of psychoanalysis. But
and they're
trying to do that again.
They're going back to it now.
Yeah,
They do it with ketamine.
Yeah.
They're making it legal.
In the proper hands, it could be used as a very useful tool.
They're using psilocybin now.
Right, ketamine.
Psilocybin they're using for something slightly different. My wife Ronnie died a few years ago, and while she was in the process of the throes of dying, she went through a psilocybin thing, where it made her lose her fear of death.
Right.
It's being used for people.
They're also using small doses of LSD and psilocybin and is it not peyote? Maybe
I think for anxiety and depression, right, Kevin?
Ketamine. They're using
just for
ketamine.
therapy.
Any doctor.
Therapy, controlled doses in therapy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes,
Ketamine's
Tony.
a tranquilizer.
Here's
Ray.
Tony, who was
No, it's also a hallucinogen, and they're using it for that because it's the only one that's legal.
Yeah.
The other things, they have to do special studies to do it, but
Yeah.
ketamine, they can just do it. But it's not. Yeah.
Tony raised his hand, and Tony is the highest thing he's ever gotten high on is aspirin. Go ahead, Tony.
That's true. When my father was home, he was like running. He was home to pass away. They gave him that drug, Alex.
Psilocybin?
Yeah, he was actually hallucinating, seeing things.
Yeah.
And when he says, "I see a baby in the corner of his dad." It's not like he was seeing different images of people.
Yeah, there's a lot of drugs that
Ronnie
do that.
did it. She did it with somebody who charged her, I think, $5,000 for the session. But the person stayed with her for about a full day while she was on it, and went through it with her, and very creatively led her through the situation.
You're talking about Tony is probably a reaction because my dad had the same thing when he was in the
Yeah,
hospital.
he kept seeing things. He saw like a little baby.
He was talking about
see that? He says no.
army tanks outside the 5th floor of the hospital.
Yeah, he kept seeing little kids, and
Yeah.
he was very peaceful with it.
That's a drug reaction though, from
Yeah.
something they gave him.
Yeah,
Well,
that's not acid.
Lenny's
That's
looking a little shocked about something. What were you going to say, Lenny?
No, I have friends who swear by microdosing of psilocybin. They grow their own mushrooms, and they claim, and I've seen some studies that say it can help with severe depression.
Yes.
And anxiety. And there are medicinal uses for it that probably the drug companies don't want to hear about because it takes their profits.
Well, also, psychiatry didn't want to hear about LSD cutting down on the number of sessions you had to have with a psychiatrist.
Hey, Lenny, how can we hear you on the internet?
We're on the iHeartRadio app. We're not a part of iHeart, but Radio Woodstock WDST is on the iHeartRadio app. I'm on weekends, and I do all the fill-in work. And then I'm on a station in Arizona.
And this show, by the way, is on iHeart as well. This show.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
You know
That
why?
was my podcast.
Because they want quality. And that's why they're probably choosing you, Alex.
That's probably why. And Ray has a podcast, and it's on iHeart.
Fantastic. Okay. But it's on the Radio Woodstock is on the iHeart app. We're in the Hudson Valley at 100.
I remember the beginning of iHeart with podcasting. Then we got to get going here. But iHeart was the beginning of podcasting. When I first wanted to put my podcast up, they said, "Are you good enough for us? How many listeners do you have? What blah blah blah." They had this whole list of things you had to answer. By the time I finally got on, they said, "Do you have a pulse?"
Exactly. Exactly. That's what happened with me.
Yeah. Now anybody.
Lenny, we can hear you on iHeart, is what you're saying.
iHeartRadio, iHeart the app. It's WDST or Radio Woodstock, and then there's the station in Arizona, KVNA, Arizona's Adult Alternative. That's on TuneIn.
Yeah.
The adult alternative I think of is Trump.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, hey, listen, thank you so much, Lenny. Come back and see us again. Just join us some night, whenever you want to.
Wonderful, Alex. Such a great time to reconnect with you and to see all your beautiful faces.
Come back again. Weid like to see you again. I think everybody here agrees.
Come on back.
Thank you very much, Jeff. We appreciate it. We appreciate your being here, Alan. We want to thank our good friend John Larkin in San Francisco. Kevin, thank you so much. Of course, Lenny, thank you. Thank you to Ray Renati, and thank you to Tony Magno. Everybody, give a big wave goodbye, and I'll give a big wave goodbye at you. Okay? All righty? Okay. And there they go, folks. Okay. I had to figure out what I had to do next here. And thank you for being here, everybody. No Jack tonight. Jack's still out because Jack is still, got problems. But he's getting better, and he'll be back in about a week, we hope. In the meantime, we'll see you again tomorrow for our last show of the week. And by the way, tomorrow night, the first hour of the show will be an interview with the former governor of the state of New York, David Patterson. And it's a very good interview, so I hope you'll be listening for it. And then after that, we'll take about a half hour worth of calls. And in the meantime, as always, if you see her, Tell her I love her, okay? Good night, everybody.